The following is a true story. The participants are alive among us, only none of them are the same as they were 10 years ago.
I couldn't handle it. You think you can, but for me this was just too much to take in cold blood.
It happened in Eastern Europe, in the Baltic region of Lithuania. We had just come through Gorbachev's perestroika and freed ourselves from Soviet oppression. A wave of historical changes dislocated us from our habitual ways. Everything, the political system, social structures, lifestyles, changed much faster than we could comprehend. We weren't all heralds of the same revolution, or creators of a new world. Most people fell headlong into creating their own well-being. The caravans of Lithuanian traders took off in the same direction as the departing Soviet tanks. No one bothered much with the travel itinerary, for the prospects were fairly clear. In order to take advantage of the economic changes, one had to buy goods as cheaply as possible in Lithuania, smuggle them past the border guards, and sell them as profitably as possible in Russia. Then to buy atoms in demand in Lithuania, and to resell them at the markets, which were slowly transforming into phantasmagorical small towns, controlled by strict and macabre internal rules.
You must be stupid or lazy if you can't make money. Times are good now. You work in a way that's simple and easy. It's a good time to make money.
Nearly a third of the population dove into this trading fever, and it didn't matter what you did to succeed. Obviously, not everyone got to play general. To this day, no one knows how many of the rank and file ended up in the gutter. Our hero, Rolandus, a simple Joe in this chaotic army of merchants, is now running an honest and viable roofing company in the second largest city in Lithuania. Nothing out of the ordinary, except that according to logical events, this man should have been dead, or doomed to end his life as a vagrant. Rolandus was just the driver of an ordinary bus. It was others who called the shots. In the beginning, he did all right. But along with a greedy new lifestyle comes the uncontrollable desire to have more and more.
Of course, I thought of many things. My own business, a house, all sorts of things. Things that you need every day.
The conditions are tough. Even though customs people have been bribed and everyone knows about the smuggling, there is always fear and tension. A rickety and overloaded bus, terrible fatigue, gangs along the road, no guarantee of financial success, a family left on their own for months at a time.
The separations were very bad for the family. Even if only for a week, but for 3 months, it's not normal.
The day was like any other. Rolandus bought the items he'd be smuggling, figured out what he'd make, thought about the hot spots he'd have to get through, and headed east with his fellow travelers.
Today that would be straight contraband. Back then the border was a joke. There was a construction wagon on the roadside and customs guys with funny felt jackets. At that time the whole idea of a border crossing was something else.
Back then, customs posts were more like shacks built by kids than serious state-controlled institutions. State territories were marked by easily crossed shallow grooves and wooden poles. They were usually manned by volunteers with no special training or experience. Naturally, some of them came with noble patriotic feelings, but quite a few were only interested in making some fast money. And that's how the new professional corrupt were born. As usual, Rolandus drove right up to the border post for the customary formal procedure. That small green bundle of dollars on the customs officer's desk is what's known as a present. Not massive, but the key to all obstacles. Presents have to be picked up very quickly. Then all that's left is not to notice the undeclared goods.
I was stunned. It was a huge amount of money, fantastic sums. Guys made money and were happy. I thought it would last forever. So I figured, earn some money, invest, buy a couple of buses, not such a big deal. I could do it easy, carry on in the same business, but work for myself. They all thought like that, whatever they did.
There's a joke where the child says, "Mother, I just don't get it. What is this homeland?" And his mother says, "Grab, steal, and keep on stealing, my child, and eventually you'll get it."
The driving, the business trips, a lot can happen on the way. You can see through people. They're greedy, they want money. They practically buy and sell each other. They steal, they sell somebody else's goods. The first guy usually loses everything, even his apartment he's put up as a collateral. You watch the weak go under. It's total corruption on those strips. People hug each other when they leave. The husband sends off his wife, hoping she'll make a lot of money. And out there, cafes, booze, saunas, and everyone, no matter who, carries a big chip on his shoulder.
As always, the little present miraculously opened the way. Only what? Good luck or misfortune? Would you call what was waiting for Rolandus at the next turn?
That, of course, was the worst episode. The accident. It all started after that.
Accidents are fairly common among drivers. The bus Rolandus was driving rear-ended a truck on the road. But it soon became clear that the truck was hauling drugs to a prison, and that the owners of the truck were one of the Russian mafia gangs.
I don't know how I survived. The front end of the bus was totally wrecked. After the accident, the Russians came up and said, "So where's the driver? He must be minced meat by now." But there I was, all in one piece.
It was terrible. People were injured. The bus, which didn't belong to Rolandus, was totaled. There were goods strewn all over the place.
At first, I was really upset. The bus was jam-packed with tons of stuff that I had to deliver in Moscow. It was worth a fortune, all sorts of furs and other expensive things. I'd borrowed a lot of money to haul this stuff, and I was in a panic, wondering how I'd pay back. And now I had even more hanging on my back. But the accident itself wasn't such a big deal.
The accident was in fact a serious one. It wasn't just two cars that had smashed into each other, but the interests of two influential underworld gangs. If the driver didn't get the goods to their destination, he had to pay for them. The cost of the items, of the trip, and now the demolished bus. Then the police came, obviously corrupt as well. The official checks Rolandus' documents and hands them over to one of the mafia guys. After all, there are no random players in this game. Rolandus and his mate are taken hostage by the mafia for a month. He keeps trying to buy time with promises that someone will bring the money.
It was the dead of winter and the bus was a total wreck. Covered the broken windows with blankets and slept on the seats. We'd drink, sleep, wake up, drink again, and so on. And we waited, my partner and me. Then one of the Russians came up and said, "Run for it, or they'll kill you, here and now." They don't stand on ceremony out there. And so we ran away during a shootout between two of the gangs. We got out through the window and took off in the woods. Eventually, we made it to Lithuania, on foot.
I gave myself a deadline. I remember it was Saturday when I went to the police to file for a search, and they told me to come back on Monday.
Well, the cops got into it fast. Then the Interpol came and tracked the mafia down. They brought the case to trial, and I had to go to testify to Volokholamsk. Of course, I knew what the score was. It was a slaughterhouse out there. No protection at all. As soon as the witness got there, they'd knock him off. If you stayed in a hotel, they'd blow up the whole building. Or they'd simply cut your throat, and that was that. The only way out was to get the money and settle with them.
Rolandus decides to take another trip, this time to Siberia, where there is a lot of money, no goods, and few who dare to sell. He stuffs his bus full of sweaters, which cost several times more in Siberia than they do in Lithuania. He calculates that he'll earn what he owes and heads off.
Our calculations were good. The profit would be just as we'd figured. What we didn't take into account was the cold, the winter in Siberia. We hadn't realized a man can't handle 56 or 57 degrees below zero.
A frustrating mistake. Apparently, people can somehow survive that kind of cold, but not automobiles. Only special vehicles can handle what Siberia has to offer. The engine in Rolandus's car broke down at least 3 times on that trip, and the cost of repairs was counted not in hundreds, but in thousands.
It wasn't just the profit. I lost absolutely everything. We starved while they fixed the car until we could sell something. We'd be happy to get a loaf of bread if we managed to unload some stuff. We'd get a loaf, break it in half, and gulp it down. Something you can't put into words. It was awful. Hungry, cold, tired, and no sleep. I came back from that trip stripped to the bone.
By that time, it didn't surprise me, because everything we tried then simply failed. So I wasn't surprised, I just wondered how much more, how much more.
Unfortunately, the further it went, the worse it got. Every day promised a call from yet another creditor and an increasingly growing fear, to which Rolandus succumbed.
I used to lie something terrible, and I'd brag about everything. I was so full of myself, I hardly touched the ground. I didn't show my face at home too much. I'd be out on the town, anywhere, any hole. I'd drink just about anywhere. The apartment was mortgaged, the interest was high. We owed something to all of our neighbors, or my wife did. I'd gone completely over the edge.
I couldn't even go out on my own. I always needed someone with me.
We lived in such fear every second. Someone would mention a name and I'd freeze. My heart would stop. Is this it? I'd wonder. I'd hold my breath and listen. Maybe it's them. I was always in a panic, always afraid. The only thing that helped me forget the pain was booze.
We'd buy porridge and eat only that. I can't imagine how I managed. Now it seems impossible for someone to survive like that. Of course, I hardly weighed anything.
I came home one day and all I found was a slice of stale bread in the bread box.
The older one was probably about 3, and the younger one 2. We lay down and I waited for the children to fall asleep.
My daughter, the older one, who's 7 now, went to her mother and said, "I'm hungry."
Mama, I want something to eat. I don't have anything. Then she says, "Mommy, there was some bread on the table, but it's stale, Cornelia. Bring it anyway."
She gave her the bread. The kid knelt in her bed and chewed it like a mouse. I couldn't take it. I couldn't handle it. You think you can, but that was just too much to take in cold blood.
It's hard to even talk about that time.
I thought, that's it. Tomorrow I'll turn Kaunas upside down. No matter what, I'll get a job, at least for some bread. I'll go and beg on my knees. I was set to go and fall on any employer and beg for work.
To go and fall on any director meant going from place to place every day in order to hear the same cold response, "I can't help you." Enterprises and factories were being closed en masse in Lithuania, and new jobs were not being created. People with professional training and experience were being laid off. Any dub like Rolandas didn't stand a chance. His hopeless situation forced Rolandas to take yet another risky step. At a construction firm, he heard that they needed a tinsmith, and without even thinking said, "I'm a tinsmith." Wanting some proof that he was in fact talking with a professional, the manager asked him to draw a certain tin-shaping operation. This time, fate was on his side. Back in Siberia, Rolandas had once, and only once, seen his drinking buddy doing precisely that operation. And so off he went to Kaliningrad, expecting to be given the least qualified job. Only he never did get to shape tin. Instead, he was appointed head of the construction team, whose job was to lay the roof on the house of a millionaire.
This situation was a dead end, I thought. I found myself at the end of the rope, and probably for the first time in my life, I thought I'd own up. admit that I'd lied. My heart was in such pain, and I wondered what would happen to my family. I thought of my daughter. I tried to come up with something, anything. Maybe to ask for some crummy job. I thought of everything. My head was spinning and I was getting tired from all these thoughts. I got a terrible headache. I couldn't think anymore. I couldn't come up with anything, so I just lay down. Just stretched out and lay down. Suddenly I had this thought, more like a vision, out of the blue. I could see the roof, the one I was supposed to cover. I was on it, climbing around on it. I looked. There were these two guys on the roof, lifting a sheet of tin. And I said to myself, let them lift it. Don't get in the way. Let them do it. I could see these guys lifting the sheet, holding it, walking along the roof, carrying it, putting it down, shaping, smoothing. I'd never seen these things before, ever. I took it all in. It was like a miracle. I don't know where it came from, who to thank, and I didn't tell anyone. I was just happy to keep my mouth shut and wait for the morning. I wanted to see the real thing as fast as I could.
This vision was not the only one. Every time he completed a stage, Rolandus would have another clear and detailed insight into what to do next. He directed the job with unexpected self-confidence, and the work was done well and on time. The firm now uses this house in its advertising campaigns. However, the visions did nothing per se to change Rolandus.
That was it. I dumped it like the crazy dream. It was too much tension and pressure. I knew nothing about roofing. And I had to get up there and handle a whole team to do the job, every day full of tension and no end to it. Every single day under pressure. I was happy for each day, but afraid to face the next one.
I had faith. I believed it was God. I prayed for him.
Of course, there wasn't enough money yet to pay off the debts. The list of creditors hadn't diminished, and there were no other job offers. He wanted to forget the choking worries and the unusual experience as quickly as possible. To his way of thinking, there was only one way to do that. He had to get hopelessly drunk.
He flew into a rage. He was saying, I work and I have to give it all away, and my family has no food. He slammed the door and the glass shattered. I tried to calm him down, but word after word, argument after argument, he grabbed a knife and kind of aimed at me. I moved, and the knife hit the door.
Life had no meaning for me, nothing to look forward to. And I was drinking non-stop.
You can't touch or verify a vision. Maybe it happened, maybe not. Maybe you created it yourself. But you can't create a person coming towards you on the street. His old friend Edvardus was different. Rolandus could feel that. Only he couldn't figure out what lay behind the change.
I had noticed that this friend had changed. Even when I knew him earlier, I saw that he had what we didn't: a sense of peace, love, compassion,
tos meilės, tos užuojautos. Aš jo
I didn't
nebeatpažinau.
recognize him,
Ir kažkur tai
and
giliai
somewhere
net-
deep inside we
netgi
even
pavydėjau.
envied him. I wondered what had happened to him.
The motivation for dropping into a cafe wasn't a desire to find out what his old buddy was up to. It was the promised glass of vodka. Edvardus, however, didn't just treat him to a vodka and a beer. He had the courage to share the gospel with him, something that he himself had just recently taken up.
Tu žinai, sako, Dievas.
You know, he says,
Koks Dievas man
God.
galima reikėti
What
20
God?
tūkstančių dolerių, kad galėčiau
What I need is $20,000
baimės išeiti į gatvę.
so I can step into the street and not be afraid. That was the reality of my situation. I needed so much cash to pay so and so. So I said to him, do you know how much money that is? Have you ever seen that much? He had his gospel, and I stayed with my pain.
Tikrai širdį. Mačiau, kad, tikrai, ne kokia popierė pasinės.
I really felt in my heart that it wasn't because of some kind of paperwork, but it was his nerves. I could really see that he was unhappy. He had no peace. Basically, he said, I don't need God or the devil. I'm doing it all on my own. I'm taking care of things and everything's okay. That was that. We simply talked, and he went his own way.
Jisai savais keliais.
Jis labai buvo kietų charakterių ir
He was very
tvirtas.
stubborn.
Galvojau, kad
I used to
jį
think
kažkas
if only
pakeistų,
someone could
palenktų,
change or bend
tai
him,
tikrai
but it was really
neįmanoma
too
jo.
late. Unless all our
Nebent
problems
dingtų
were to
mūsų visos
disappear and our
problemos
life could
ir
start
tada
over
mūsų
again.
atsistatytų gyvenimas.
Kad prisiplak galėdavau, prigert.
To get a drink, I'd knock on somebody's door and then punch them in the face. We'd fight, then calm down, make up, and go drinking.
Sustaikom ir einam tada gert.
I can't begin to tell you about it. It was a terrible time. Now it sounds funny when I look back. It seems like a joke. But I needed that man, Edvardas, to come and to talk to me about the gospel.
Širdį norėjau, kad jisai kažkur eitų.
In my heart, I wanted him to change for the better, but I really couldn't see any signs that it was coming or that anything was happening.
Tik tiek, kad iš mandagumo.
I was just being polite because we were really good buddies, because he stood me some liquor and beer. Later on, he told me that he'd said, if this guy starts to believe, that will be it. To another friend, he said, it'll be progress if he manages to stay out of a fight today.
For the vodka that he drank, Rolandus promised to go to the community of believers that Edvardus attended.
Aš ėjau kaip vilkas tarp avių. Įslinkau.
I went there like a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Žiau vyrus,
I
visi
watched
tenais
these guys.
savi, kažką tenais, kas ką kalba ten. Visi buvo savi, ten toks. Ir aš visus.
They all seemed at home there, some talking, everyone at ease. It was like I was seeing a movie. First, I was trying to defend myself. I was looking for something negative, something I could pick on. But I sat down, and the biggest shock was to see them hugging one another, talking, happy, smiling. I thought, right, a real bunch of queers. I figured no way they wouldn't get me in there again. But I sat there and they sang, and all of a sudden I had this feeling of guilt. They sang hymns and the hymns flowed through my heart. I felt so dirty, terribly dirty, filthy, you couldn't be any worse. And they seemed like angels to me, so clean. To hell with them, I thought. And then I got this feeling that if I didn't do something that day, that would be the end of the road for me. I'd probably die. This was my last chance, I thought. And then they prayed and said,
Ir sako, gal nori
perhaps you would
melstis Jėzus.
like to ask Jesus into your heart.
Sakau, ką aš turiu daryti, aš nemoku melstis.
And I said,
Pasiūlė
what am I supposed to do?
pasimelst maldą.
I
Atgailos
don't know how to pray. I don't know anything.
susitaikymo maldą. Ir kad Jėzus ateitų. Išpažinimo maldą.
So they invited me to say a prayer of repentance and reconciliation so that Jesus
Žinau,
would
kad
come.
turbūt tas
A
dalykas,
prayer of
kažkas
confession.
tas, ką turiu padaryti.
And I knew that that was what I had to do. So I
Kažkas tai
prayed.
mane tada pajutau tokį kaip sotės,
I felt
kaip
something like the
pasotintą
fullness,
pilną, pavalgiusį
the
tikrai
well-being
tokį
that you get after a good meal,
sotaus tokį būvį,
a kind of completeness. It felt nice.
pilnatvę. Tokį
I had
gerą
long ago
malonumą.
forgotten that feeling. Something filled me inside,
Buvo
a good
pamiršęs.
feeling above any
Kažkas tai
price.
vidų. Ir taip brangu pasidarė visas tas toks malonus jausmas, tokia branginybė.
Precious.
Kuri
I had such a treasure, and from then on, it was possible to overcome great hardships and suffering.
pereiti per didelius sunkumus.
It was the only and most valuable treasure
Vienintelis
that I had
brangiausias
had for many
gautas
years.
turtas, kurį gavau per daugelį metų. Neturėjau to.
Together with his old life, Rolandus lost his sense of fear. And the mafia debts? That was easy. Rolandus simply said to them, "You know what? I have no money, and I don't feel like I owe you a thing." Strange as it may seem, the mafia left him alone. Now he is a man who finds pleasure in his family and who has started his own roofing company. His business is expanding, but no one knows what waits at the next turn.
Išmokau vieną gerą.
I learned one good thing:
Visą laiką dėkoti. už
always give thanks for everything.
viską. Aš dabar žinau, kam dėkoti.
And now I know who to
Žinau,
thank.
aš turiu tiek, kiek
Today I have as much as I have, and for that I thank Jesus. These miracles happen every day.
tie stebuklai yra.
They are the greatest miracles.
Didžiausi.
For me,
Man didžiausi.
they are the greatest.